doesn't quite fit as well, does it? Bloody says, Murali is one of the top contenders to be a GOAT bowler with his highest wickets in Tests and ODIs. But he does not seem to be a superstar. Even in Sri Lanka, it seems like Jarrod Kimber and Malinga are more household names. Yeah, I did a podcast with Fernando once, and I said to him, like, it's ridiculous that Murali is not the most famous cricketer in Sri Lanka and not that thought of as the best. Relative to total sporting achievement, is Murali the least culturally impactful, unpopular cricketer in cricket, even all major sport? I've not seen a single hockey match, but I know who Wayne Gretzky is. My profile picture on social media was Murali for 10 years. Yeah, I think the stuff around his action is obviously a major part of it. But he also did, he was a cheeky guy, but he, didn't have that superstar energy, right? Like, compare him to Virat. AB de Villiers could be another perfect example of this. I could see how in a couple of years, AB de Villiers is kind of forgotten a little bit. So, Warne was around when Murali was around. I think, and I've never done, ranking the bowlers. I think obviously Murali has a solid argument to be the greatest of all time. But when you do break his figures down a little bit more compared to Warne, you do understand why Warne, even though he didn't have as good a record, might have been a slightly better bowler. But that doesn't mean that Murali wasn't absolutely fantastic and is still in that conversation. I think his ethnicity in Sri Lanka plays a big part in it. He's not a great public speaker. He's not gone on to be a commentator. Just all the kinds of little things that help with legacy. And great players sometimes do, no one talks about Lance Gibbs anymore, right? Like, sometimes you're just the wrong player at the wrong time. There's a lot of great English batters who we don't even mention anymore. And it's these things just happen to players. Like Herbert Sutcliffe doesn't. When we talk about great batters, is Herbert Sutcliffe in people's mouths in the top 15 names? Probably not, right? And yet, Herbert Sutcliffe, arguably one of the greatest batters of all time. So I think these things do happen to certain players. It's funny you talk about, players. I mean, Karl Malone in the NBA is probably a player that instantly comes to my mind. I think Karl Malone's the third leading scorer of all time. For a long period was the second leading scorer. It has a great nickname, but even before all the murky stuff with marrying, teenager and whatever else he was involved with and everything else, kind of wasn't put on that level. Like, you can be a high production person and maybe not be as romantic to certain kinds of fans, and have not conspiracies, but have controversies that hold you back. And I think with Murali, the action certainly plays a big part of that. And then, as we said, he was a Tamil guy in Sri Lanka. I still think it's one of the incredibly, I don't know, I think there should be a book written about Murali and the Tamil conflict directly and his position in Sri Lankan culture. I don't know if it's something for Fidel or Estelle or someone else, an outsider, but I still think it's a phenomenal book, because just Murali has a really complicated legacy within Sri Lanka, let alone within cricket.